My name's Tara O'Connor and I'm a local democracy reporter covering Croydon, Sutton and Merton councils. Writing was something that I was always interested in throughout school, and English was probably my favourite subject. I just loved writing essays and stuff. I was never really that good at maths and science, so it was always it was always in the back of my mind that I wanted to do something with writing in my career, because it was really the only thing. Throughout school, I was always more interested in studying English. I went on to do it in my A-levels. I did it with philosophy and French. And then I was never really sure what I wanted to do after school, but I thought I would just kind of stick with the subjects that I enjoyed the most and that I knew I was the best at. So I did English and philosophy again at university, which was quite a good way to kind of hone your writing. It's a different kind of writing to journalism, but it's all kind of good practice. And yeah, I think after university I wasn't really sure where I was going to go. I thought I might want to do journalism, but I was always told that it was too hard to get into, so I kind of talked myself out of it quite a lot. But after working a few part-time jobs after uni, I got a job with a startup company which was writing health and well-being advice for young people. It was quite an unusual job in that we were all quite young and didn't have any kind of formal journalism qualifications, but it gave me the confidence to think, oh, I could be a journalist maybe, and maybe writing is something that I would like to pursue. That job, it wasn't very long, and the startup didn't really make it. So after that I was kind of left again thinking, oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do next? So I wrote a letter or an email to my local paper and said, could I come and just do some work experience with you? I didn't know what it would involve at all, but I just went for a week or two, and it was really good because it made me see what it's actually about. So I'd advise doing that if you just want to see what it's about, because it might be for you or it might not. You might think, oh, actually, maybe I don't want to do this. But for me, I really liked going out and chatting to people and being able to write a couple of things, which ended up in the newspaper, which was quite, nice, a nice little step. And it was when I was there that one of the other reporters there said that basically what local papers want is for someone to have this NCTJ qualification. I didn't really want to go into further education, like to do a master's or anything, but I did a fast track diploma, which meant that I studied for about 18 weeks, and it was quite intense because it was 4 days a week, but on the Fridays we were able to do work experience, so it meant that you could build up a bit of a portfolio and get a bit more of a sense of what you want to do, because my peers did quite a range. A lot were in local newspapers and then went on to work in local newspapers, but others kind of did their work experience in local newspapers and thought, actually I want to go in a different direction, and then went on to like specialist magazines or to work in broadcast. So I think it's a good way to decide what you want to do and what interests you the most. After I finished that course, I got a job with the same local paper that I did the work experience with, and it was my hometown in Farnborough, so it was the Aldershot News and Mail. So it was nice to cover my local area and get that kind of real local kind of community stories, stuff that isn't everyone's cup of tea, but I found it quite a good start. And after that I went on to work at an independent newspaper in Berkshire called the Maidenhead Advertiser, where I started as a trainee journalist, where covering general news, day-to-day stuff, but then also getting the chance to go and cover court cases and inquests, which can be really interesting. They can be like quite challenging to cover because sometimes the content can be difficult to hear, but it's always, it's quite an art to be able to get a story from a whole day's worth of court cases and, report it accurately and concisely. While I was there, I also was there was a business magazine, so did that for a bit alongside my job. It was interesting to get an insight into like a different industry, and it could lead a different way towards doing more business news for a kind of magazine or something. But I was there for about 3 years, where I managed to get my senior qualification there as well, which was paid for by the company. And after that, I went on to my current job, which I've been in for 3 years, which is the BBC Local Democracy Reporting Service. It's a scheme that was founded 3 years ago, so I've been in it since the start, and it's funded by the BBC, but the aim of it is to increase coverage of local councils, stuff that local papers don't really have. The local papers are struggling quite a lot, so their staff decreased quite dramatically, and it meant that lots of local council meetings, like really important decisions that affect us all, and health boards, police, weren't being covered because there wasn't enough time. So the BBC has basically funded a load of reporters across the country. There's 13 of us in London covering all of the boroughs. I cover 3, and it's quite an interesting job if you're interested in local politics or national politics, because it's kind of like a small version of national politics. You get to go. My day-to-day job is going to covering council meetings, usually in person, but obviously because since the coronavirus pandemic, we've been working completely from home, which has had its challenges, covering meetings online and speaking to people over the phone rather than meeting them in person. But one of the things I like most about my job is going out to just chat to, regular people. You can really get an insight into their lives, and it can be a real honour to tell someone's story. Either they have an inspiring personal life, or they've got a campaign that they want publicised, and then the other side of the coin is like doing council stuff, which it can be like very dry, but you can get really interesting stories from it, and it's stuff that I think we should all take a bit more interest in, because there's so much going on almost behind closed doors that we don't know about, like in our own communities, and it can be really quite fun to get under those issues. I work for a scheme that's funded by the BBC, but I'm based at a local organisation called My London, which covers the news across London and has the local papers associated with it. I write for the Croydon Advertiser, so I focus on Croydon news, Croydon, Sutton and Merton news, across politics and general kind of community news. I think to be a good journalist, or to want to do journalism, you have to have an interest in people, and obviously writing as well. But I think the main thing is just being interested in telling stories about people or things and making it interesting, making it something that you'd want to read. I think the first steps, there are many routes into it really, but for many of the local papers, what they ask for is for an NCTJ accredited course, which is run by the National Council for the Training of Journalists. So that can be done in a number of ways. You can do it as like a full master's, or some degree courses are accredited as well. Or if you've already done a degree or don't want to do a degree, you could do a fast track or diploma course, which can be done at kind of a number of places in London and across the country, often at kind of careers colleges or further education colleges. These days there are a few different routes into it as well, like apprenticeships, which a lot of organisations are offering now, where you can kind of go in with just your GCSEs or your A-levels, and they'll give you on-the-job training, and then maybe one day a month or something you'll go to a course, and you'll be able to get that qualification. I'm not sure exactly, but like in a year or so of being there, and then you can qualify to get other jobs and kind of move on from there. So I think there are a few different ways or routes into journalism. Some people can start off as an apprentice, and then kind of they get their training on the job and can work towards a formal qualification. Lots of people do a course that's accredited by the NCTJ, which is the National Council for the Training of Journalists. It offers like a range of courses from, you could do a master's if you've already done a degree, if you fancied it, or some of the degree courses are actually accredited as well, so you'll get that kind of NCTJ standard, which is what a lot of employers are looking for. What I did was a diploma, which I did after my degree, and it was a kind of fast-track 18-week course where you get basically the same kind of training but in a much more condensed time, and I think it's enough to basically get you that first job. One thing that does put people off journalism is that it starts out at really quite a low income. Like in some local papers, depending on where you are in the country, you can be earning like below £20,000, but as you progress and you get a few more qualifications, you basically have the potential to earn a bit more. But if you were to want to go into something more specialised, like working for a trade magazine or working in kind of communications or something, you're likely to get a much higher wage. And I think that's often a shift that people make if they want to continue working in writing but want to earn a bit more money, really. Often when people get a little bit older or they want to have more stability, they'll go into kind of more specialist publications which often pay more. I think if you're interested in journalism when you're a bit younger, it would be really worth kind of getting involved in any student newspapers that you can. I personally didn't, because I was never sure that I wanted to be a journalist, but I think it can really help you know what kind of direction that you want to go in. Like you might start doing a bit of work on a student newspaper and realise, actually, I like writing opinion pieces more, or I like more hard news, or you like doing features, and it could just help you about where you choose to take your first step. I think a lot of people also do work experience at papers. Like lots of national newspapers are willing to take people on over the summer for a week or a month, and you probably have quite a good chance of getting a placement if you try your local papers as well. And it can be quite good experience because you'll definitely get to write lots and you'll be able to see your work published, and it's just, yeah, it will be something good and you'll be able to see if you like it as well. Beyond journalism, the skills that you get from it can be quite transferable to a lot of jobs, and I think it's something that a lot of other employers would be looking for. Like, they know that you can speak to people, they know that you can stick to deadlines, you can work as part of a team usually, and I think it's something that employers really like, and jobs that people often go on to after journalism or after their training can include going into communications, which can span loads of sectors, like charities or kind of local councils or big organisations. So depending on what you're interested in, you might want to go into different ways. The amount of freedom that you get from different journalism jobs just does vary place to place. If you wanted the freedom to work on kind of longer term things, you might look at working at a different kind of organisation, maybe an investigations publication or something more specialist. Whereas if you work for a kind of daily newspaper or a news website, there are definitely going to be things that are given to you by editors, so you'll have like a list of things that you have to do a day, and you'll probably have quotas of things you want to do. But within that, there's always scope to I think there's scope to work on things that you're most interested in. But I'd say as you progress, you probably are likely to get a bit more freedom, depending on where you go. You can find out a lot more about where courses are offered by visiting the NCTJ website, where there's a list of courses available in London and across the country, as well as the NCTJ Diversity Fund, which can which can support you through your learning. If you've got a passion for telling the stories of ordinary people or covering politics, I think journalism could really be the career for you, and you should go for it, because we always need more younger people and more diverse people to be in the industry to really represent the views of this country and our local areas.